kind of person. He added something to the music, as Joe does. The one thing about a musician like this is that he brings something special, no matter what saxophone he's playing. He brings something special to the music, and he has to work hard. These guys have to practice like crazy because the embouchure on one is different from the other, and to get a personal sound on all of those instruments is very difficult. Joe Lovano is the kind of guy that must have spent all kinds of time working on the various instruments that he plays, because it takes as much practice to get to the Village Vanguard as it takes to get to Carnegie Hall. It's about time you heard the music of Joe Lovano. For 20 years, this master of the tenor saxophone has toiled in the highly competitive New York jazz scene. Now he's earned the opportunity to play his own music in landmarks like the Village Vanguard.
Playing the Vanguard and doing these couple of recordings I just did was incredible, because you're playing in a place with such a tradition, you know. When I stand on that stage and I feel Sonny Rollins, you know, I feel John Coltrane, I feel Miles Davis of Cannonball Adderley, and Bill Evans.
Now you're going to add another name, Joe Lovano. With 2 critically acclaimed recordings in a row, he's been voted Artist of the Year by critics and readers of Downbeat magazine, 2 years running. With his brand new release celebrating Sinatra, Joe has taken another step. He's paying tribute to the tunes he heard growing up in a big Italian family, but he's playing them very differently with his own signature sound.
Joe is the man, you know, he's the guy now in New York that a lot of young tenor players are gravitating toward Joe's thing.
We could do both these in the medley, man.
Robbie Coltrane is the talented son of saxophone great John Coltrane.
We could maybe do these as a little thing together.
Okay. Robbie recently joined Joe at a concert in Cleveland dedicated to his late father's music.
Joe has a very unique approach in playing music, and you know, very distinctive sound and very distinctive way of phrasing and his rhythmic concept and things like that. And a lot of young players are going in that direction, me included.
Cleveland is home to Joe Lovano.
Thanks for coming.
This is where I grew up and first heard my dad play this horn, and first started to put some music together for myself. He used to practice, and his tone would vibrate this whole house. And I used to sneak down the basement and listen to him practice, and first got the urge to really try to create that tone myself.
Joe's dad was Tony Big T Lovano, the Cleveland barber by day. At night, Big T played opposite visiting headliners like Stan Getz. And when Joe was only 2 months old, he was destined for the sax.
Those pictures tell a lot, you know. My dad took those pictures, actually. Yeah, my mom was holding up the alto saxophone with me, and you could see it in my eyes. I'm looking up at the horn like, wow, yeah, what's that? You know. Coming down this entrance was really like a magical place, and you'd hear the music playing. You'd come in this door, and you'd hear the piano, bass, and drums playing. It was really exciting. I mean, for me, it was the beginning of that whole feeling of walking into a jazz club. I got bit by that bug here, the East Shore Club.
Nightclubs like this one, the abandoned East Shore Club, were Joe's training ground.
The first night that I got to play here, Oh, it was really exciting. My dad brought me. It was before I had my driver's license. I was maybe 15, and it was amazing to sit in and play a blues and to play a standard song that I had been practicing in my lessons, and to be accepted by the musicians that were my dad's peers. It just gave me so much inspiration to try to get myself together, you know.
These days, Joe is far from your standard saxophone player. When he breaks out of the traditional quartet, he shows a very different side. With this ensemble called Symbiosis, Joe is exploring the cutting edge of free jazz, atonal music. Some of it composed by his friend and mentor, Gunther Schuller.
Well, it's fun to play the music.
He can face any challenge, whether it's improvisational or whether it's written music. And in written music, whether it's in a sort of modern classical style or whether it has to swing or whatever, he's just phenomenal in that way.
It can be tricky musical territory and strange to some ears, but it's also a shared improvisation for Joe and his wife, vocalist Judy Silvano.
The way we played together really just kind of evolved from our experiences. And I started to write with the voice in an ensemble with trumpet, soprano voice, trombone, and saxophone. And Judy took a role as another woodwind or with the trumpet.
Joe is a very dynamic performer, and when you watch him, you can't help but be infected by his enthusiasm for the music. And to be up there on the stage with him, interacting, there's a lot of give and take. Mm-hmm. And he's a wonderful leader in that regard because he really encourages each member of the band to really be creative and make a contribution that's specifically theirs.
Another hand for Joe Lovano. And I, like most of the musicians who love playing with him, am happy to have both Joe Lovanos. Gunther Schuller agrees.
I've worked with thousands of musicians on both the classical and the jazz side. You name them, I've worked with them. But I've rarely encountered someone who is so broad-gauged, who is so versatile and wide-ranging in his conceptions.
And whether it's straight-ahead jazz or the avant-garde, for Joe Lovano, possibilities really are limitless.
Jazz is an amazing music, multiculturally and multi-generation-wise. And when you are in that world and you don't limit yourself to one little scene or one little group of players, it's just an expansive, beautiful situation.
It is.
And recreate